Yes, welcome back to Football Heritage TV. A 30-minute segment with my favourite Irish person, Dave from Irish Hotspur. How are you, buddy? You good?
Yeah, I'm good. Well, I was in good high spirits. I was up the Wicklow Mountains this morning. As soon as I got down, I'd message off you saying Odobert is signed. So sort of altered my mood a little, I'm not going to lie.
Sorry, Dave, there's much worse things I could have sent you to ruin your day, though, than that news. Dave, it's interesting because we actually had this video lined up before Odobert signed. And do you know what? Normally we do it at 11 or 10 in the morning. So I'm actually quite glad that you couldn't do it until this afternoon because it does give us a topic. Look, Dave, there's only one place to start. I messaged you last night and said, look, we're going to do a video about our scouts. And tongue-in-cheek, me saying, what do they do? Are they on holiday? Have they been sacked? What's gone on? And then this morning, we get the news come through like that. The Spurs have signed Odobert from Burnley, another 19-year-old player. Now, Dave, I'll start this off by saying I've got nothing against him as a player. I don't. I wish him all the best. For all I know, he could end up being the best winger in the world in 2 or 3 years. I don't know. My issue, as you know, Dave, isn't with the individual players. It's not with Bergvall. It's not with Gray. It's not with Yang. It's not with Vuskovic or Valise. My worry, Dave, is this is yet another teenager that Spurs are buying. And what I can't quite understand, I know you've got a fear on it, but what I can't quite understand is everyone at the beginning of the window talked about this great window we were going to have. Angie's going to be backed. We're going to be signing a proper DM, a proper winger, a top forward, a top centre-half, more fullbacks, and we're really going to go for it. And it hasn't materialised. It's been a lot of kids. What do you make of it all now we're a couple of weeks further down the line from when we last talked?
Yeah, look, I'm starting to become a bit very frustrated, to be brutally honest. Like, coming into this window, we were actually in one of the best positions we've been in quite some time heading into a summer window because we all knew what Tottenham needed to get done this window to really try and push on that project. And we're still sitting here with half the positions still waiting to be filled. It's nowhere near good enough. And you look at that signing today in terms of Odobert. It's another one, where it's another youngster, and I feel like the club are maybe going down this route too far, almost like they're trying to line up succession plans for the first 11 that we've already got, rather than actually add to that first 11 and really push it on to bring in silverware and then start looking at the replacements and stuff like that, which I find a bit frustrating, to be brutally honest, because we know what's going to happen. The manager's going to come stuck somewhere along in the season, and he's going to be the one that's going to pay the price off the back of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, do you know what? I think you summed that up brilliantly there, to be honest, Dave. I know we don't always see eye to eye, but I agree with you, mate. Look, I've got nothing against signing, I call them kids or youngsters, whatever you want to call them, teenagers. I've got nothing against it. But we've gone down this path now so much in the last 2 years. When you look at last year, was Valise and Phillips coming in with Vuskovic as well for the future. This year, Bergvall. So the year before that was Sarr and Hill. You've now got Bergvall, Gray. I'll tell you what. Let's put it up, shall we? Look. Here's our transfer business for this summer. Hopefully, it doesn't block either of us. Forgive the price. I stole this off somebody. It could be £1 million here or there out. But look, Bergvall 18, Gray 18, Yang 18, Odobert 19, and Dominic Solanke, who we know is 27 or 27 next month, I think he is. And then you look at the players going again. It was players that were talked about, Dave, that they were going to be these young players that everyone said were amazing. Brian Hill, best young Spanish player, never worked. Santiago, he's amazing. Wait till he breaks in. Didn't work. Troy Parrott, 6 million he's gone for. Dane Scarlett, gone out on loan. Valise. It just feels to me that what we're doing is just recycling all of our old deadwood and bringing in a lot of kids. Is that £146 million well spent, Dave?
Look, to be honest with you, I can sit here and say, personally, I think it's a gamble of £146 million, but we're never really going to know until we come out the other end of the season, or at least until January, you know, to really judge these signings. But when you look at maybe signings that other clubs have made for the amount of money that we've spent, you would argue that maybe probably made better signings. You look at Man United, you were sending me about West Ham signings and stuff like that. You know, Aston Villa have made a couple this summer as well. So you would have maybe argue that other clubs have maybe spent their money better. In that regard. What I will say is, though, Tottenham do deserve a lot of credit this window for the outgoings. That's something that has clogged us up in years gone by, and we've got a hell of a lot of deadwood out of this squad. But my concern is we've completely lowered the wage bill by getting a lot of these out, but we're reinvesting it into youngsters. You know, not really shelling out them wages on top players or even, you know, middle of the range players to be able to come in here and really sort of help push this team forward. And that's my concern. You know, it seems like, you know, we're told that we have all this money, we're financial fair play kings and everything else, but when are we actually going to use it? We missed out on PSR, didn't flex our muscles there. You look at this European market, yes, there is an element of it of clubs, you know, players wait until the Euros and that were over before they make their moves or speak to their agents and stuff like that. However, again, it's a slow market. How have we not flexed our muscles in this? If we've built up to this point, when are we actually going to use that to flex our muscles and bring in the signings to say, there you are? You know, Postecoglou made it no secret last year. He wants to challenge for trophies. Look, with the inside incomings that we've made so far, is that enough to push us onto trophies? I don't think so. It might be enough to maybe help us get inside the Champions League. But this window was all about making signings, pushing us on for trophies, which Ange Postecoglou alluded to. And I don't think we have done that this window so far, to be brutally honest with you, Savva. I find it underwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, look, I look at these 6 players here. And listen, I can't reiterate this enough because you know what people in chat rooms are like. Everyone will go, oh, you don't rate Odobert. Listen, Odobert, for me, looks a decent player. I've got no problem with him. But I look at these players, right, and I think, right, how many of them are guaranteed first-team starters? And the only one you could say that is guaranteed is Solanke, right? That's the only one that you could say, well, he has to start. People will make arguments for Gray, for Bergvall, for Odobert, but they've got senior pros above them, which I don't think they will start. What I want to move on to, Dave, and have a look at is one of the things that fans have been talking about all summer. All summer, so many of our fan base have talked about, look at these kids we've got. And I don't mean the ones we've bought. Look at these kids. Mikey Moore is generational. Will Lancashire. Yeah, Jamie Donnelly's amazing. Hall, Devine. But all we're doing, and they're all 17, 18, 19-year-old kids, all we're doing is buying on top of them more 18, 19-year-old kids. Surely we're going to get to the point, Dave, where they're blocking each other's path. And again, I'll ask this. If Mikey Moore is this generational player that everyone talks about and he plays out on that right wing, why then in the last 3 windows have we gone and bought Brennan Johnson, who plays on the right, Solomon, who can play on the right, Kulu, who plays on the right, and now Odobert, who can play on the right? Surely, if he's that good, you don't spend 30 million on Odobert and you go, well, Mikey Moore's that young player that we want to groom in that position, though.
This is what concerns me about the Odobert signing. This is what I don't quite get about it. Look, I do think Mikey Moore is a generational talent, providing he stays fit. He doesn't carry many injuries when he's youngster. I do think he'll go on and fulfill that potential. But why are we blocking up his pathway? I was concerned when we brought in Werner off the left-hand side because that's where he was playing for the academy. But now we've moved him out to the right-hand side. Now we've brought in Odobert, and it looks like, you know, I know most people say Odebert's predominant, you know, left winger, but he can't play on the right, and it's concerning for me. I'd argue I want to see Mikey Moore against Leicester over Brennan Johnson, to be brutally honest with you.
Me too.
But my problem with the Odobert signing is, why couldn't we make this happen 6-7 weeks ago? And I'm sorry, but no one's going to tell me that this one was flagged up on the scouting system. No one's going to tell me that, because if that was, we could have got it done 6-7 weeks ago. We could have given him a chance to move his family down into the area, get them settled into housing, school, the local community and stuff like that, and also give him time to be able to settle into the team. It's absolutely shocking in my eyes that we've brought this guy in here so late. To be honest, it just feels like that's one that came up on the market. You've got Chiesa out there, you've had Coleman, you have Eze, you also have Elise earlier on in the market as well. All wingers that we could have gone for that would have actually made a massive improvement to this first team and dragged us forward another level. But yet we've took a gamble on a 19-year-old Odobert. And like you said, I'm not against Odobert. I'm going to give that guy every chance to shine at Tottenham. Same with Dominic Solanke. And I urge everyone else to do the same. Your frustration should be more aired towards the board rather than the player. And hopefully that is the case. But I just struggle with this one. I find it underwhelming. To be honest with you, it feels like now we're in the middle aisle in Aldi and we're seeing what's on offer and what's best offer, and we'll take it and we'll go and buy it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Look, and I agree with you. And I think a lot of people that gets lost in translation when talking about, when I say, oh my God, what are we doing buying Odobert? Listen, this kid, he could be amazing. But what about the now? And lots of people always say, especially aimed at me, Dave, because I'm more negative than you, is Savva, now, you want it now. Patience. And it's like, cool, but at some point, Dave, now has to mean now. At some point, we can't keep saying in 5 years they're going to be amazing. In 4 years, because there seems like there's no end date to this journey. It seems like we could do this for the next 5, 6 years and people will still be saying, this is the plan. Now, I want to bring this up again. Sorry, and I've already brought it a couple of times. Take Solanke out of that. And I'm not even counting Werner. I'm not going to lie to you. I think we both have a very similar opinion of him. If I look at those 4 kids in Bergvall, Gray, Odobert and Yang, that is what I would expect to see after Spurs have made 4 or 5 first team signings. I would expect that after we've signed a proper midfielder that goes in there. And I'm not saying Bergvall and Gray aren't midfielders, but a proper senior pro that goes in there and you go, that's our best midfielder. A proper winger that you go, he has to start. I don't care whether that's you want to put Eze out there or whether it was a Neto, whether it was whoever you want to put out there. I think that's what we should have been seeing as the underneath section, not, hey, this is our main transfer window. We're the 6th, 7th richest club in the world. We're FFP, PSR champions. Just wait and see what we do to benefit us. Then watching all these other clubs actually strengthen their first 11. And again, Dave, you and I spoke yesterday and I said to you, I'm jealous of West Ham. And it wasn't about, am I jealous of all 8 players they've signed? It wasn't that. It was more about the lines of West Ham acknowledged they need a new senior right back, Wan-Bissaka. They need 2 more centre-backs because 2 of theirs were going, including Zuma. So they've gone and got Max Kilman and Todibo on loan, which is a fantastic signing. They needed winger depth. Yeah, they already had players like Kudus and Paqueta and Bowen, and they've gone out and bought Guilherme and Somerville.
Yeah.
You know, they needed a centre forward. They've gone and got Fulkrog. And you feel like, I get what they're doing for them. I'm not saying for us, but for them. Bring this back to your point at the beginning of the show. There are positions in this squad where I still look at and go, all right, we've signed 5, 6 players. We've had this whole window and we haven't actually addressed the first 11. That's the concern for me, Dave, the first 11.
See, that's my problem. I actually have no problem with Tottenham bringing through some youngsters and even bringing in some youngsters. I do think Bergvall and Gray will go on to be very good players for Tottenham. And I actually think they'll find themselves in the starting 11 come the end of the season. But where my problem comes in is address the issues in the first team first. And then if you want, have all these youngsters, you know, on the periphery, on the backup. Because, look, let's be brutally honest. In years gone by, we did have full international players, senior players like Sanchez and people like that on the peripheries of the squad as the backup positions. And they weren't good enough for the money and the wages that we were paying out. And we put ourselves into a massive problem trying to offload all these guys. And I think the club are maybe trying to go a different route with it, by trying to fill it out with some of these youngsters, you know, so that they're not shelling out the big wages and hopefully get a better return. But to your point, go and address the first 11 issues first. Go and address them properly and adequately. And then I don't think many fans would be in uproar about this window with the signings of Odobert, Gray, or Bergvall, to be brutally honest, because we've addressed the first 11. And I think many people accept having these guys on the periphery, hunting players down, keeping them honest in their position. But we haven't done that this window, which I find is very underwhelming for me. But look, I wonder, is a part of it to do with the changeover from Paratici to Johan Lange, who has a lot more power now? You know, now that Paratici is more on the back burner, that's what I was after reading lately. So, you know, are we struggling because of that? Now, I do think Johan Lange was brought in here to booster the homegrown side of the squad. That's what he done very well at Villa. Once he done that, they shipped him out. They brought in Munchie from Seville to really sort of go after that foreign side of the squad. And I feel that's what Lang was brought in here to do. But I don't think he's doing it to the best of his ability.
But it's like we've gone from here right the way down to here. It's like we haven't met in the middle. And
why
Dave,
are we changing strategies, though? When Paratici's strategy was working, and look, regardless of what people think of Paratici, if you go back over his signings, a lot of them have come in and sort of improved the situation to a degree. And I think we're looking at a lot more better technical players now than what we had in years gone by. But in such a pivotal season where you're only 3, 4, 5 signings away from really kicking this on, why have we changed over from Paratici to Johan Lang? Why?
Dave, that is my biggest bugbear. And I was going to say to you, and I want people watching this to really listen to what I'm going to say here before they say, oh, it's not like Poch's team. This has similarities to me, not on the same level, because I think the 11 that Poch built or moulded over that couple of years was brilliant. It was, on paper, that 11 was fantastic. I almost feel like Spurs are starting to try and mould an 11, and you think, right, when Poch came in, 7 of that famous 11, I know we'll say famous, they didn't win anything, but 7 of that 11 were there. And then he added another 4 players that he added the likes of Son and Dele Alli and Toby Alderweireld, and it clicked, right? I feel like we're in that position where, okay, you've got your back 4 and your keeper sorted, cool. All right, Son and Solanke, you've got them, cool. Maybe put Bentancur in there and you think, okay, right, if we go and add a top winger, couple of top midfielders, top playmaker, we really could kick on. And it's like whenever we get to that moment, Dave, and you think, this is it, this is the window where we're going to really smash through it, we go, stop. Right, we've done that now. Right, what kids can we bring in? And it's soul destroying from a fan of, I'm 41, as you know, I'm a bit older than you, but it's soul destroying as a fan of 41 years that we keep starting these projects and then we stop it and then we're starting a new project. And Dave, look at this, right? Look at all these wingers that Tottenham have got at the club, right? Yeah. How many of these have been bought in the last 2 years? Other than Son, Kulu, Werner, Johnson, Odobert, Solomon and Yang. All of them have been bought in the last 2 years. And let's be brutally honest, not one of them, you go, that's a top player who walks straight into the 11 and makes us immediately better. Yeah. No, so again, I asked Dave, are we just going to keep doing this? Are we just going to keep buying young wingers every window rather than sorting out what we need?
Look, I do think we are going down that young route. That was pretty evident since Paratici's come in, and they finally got a manager that I feel like you is similar to Poch in a way, where because it's so high octane and demands a lot and really high fitness levels, they're more inclined to go and use the younger players because they're more inclined to be able to get around the pitch and do what they want them to do in that regard. However, where I think Postecoglou is a little bit different to Pochettino is Pochettino was very quick to turn around to that academy and go, okay, Adebayor and people like that, you don't want to do it, no problem, off you go. Brought up the youngsters, and it bought him that bit of time and that bit of grace with the fan base to be able to go on and actually build what he did, which got us close to so many, all the trophies available at club level. Yeah. And I just feel like Postecoglou needs to do the same. He needs to turn to that academy and bring 3 or 4 of these players through to buy himself that bit of grace, because if things go tits up early, between now and Christmas, fans will not have that grace for him because he hasn't brought through the youngsters that the club have brought, paid all these contracts and given them big contracts for. Even Jamie Donnelly was sat on loan yesterday, but signed another contract extension. It's sort of a bit mixed messages in that regard. But look, in terms of the signings up front as well, my biggest bugbear is, and look, whether Kane wanted to go or not, I made the argument that we shouldn't sell Kane because I didn't think the club were going to replace him adequately. And we all knew when you replace him, you need to bring in 2 players of brilliant quality. You know, so we always speak about scoring goals is the hardest thing to do in football. Surely we learned our lesson last season by replacing Harry Kane with the likes of Werner and Johnson and people like that. That you can't just bring in any average Joe into the Premier League and expect them to really kick us on. If we've learned anything, even if you just have 2 world-class players up front, they will carry you to minimum top 4 nearly every single season. Why aren't we going after that forward line with more panache? You know, bringing players in here with, you know, more je ne sais quoi about them. I'm not being funny, but bringing in Odobert is just giving yourself a similar problem to Brennan Johnson. Brennan Johnson is very inconsistent because of his age. Odebert's going to be the same, you know. And for me, it's like we're going to. I just have a fear that we're going to put ourselves into maybe the same position we did last season, where we're going to be in the opposition third for quite some time. We're going to be passing the ball around, looking to create chances. But when it comes to having that final bit of quality to really, you know, rip the teams apart, that we're just going to be lacking. And I feel like we're making the same mistakes heading into this season. And Odobert does not solve that option. One thing I said this summer, you will get away with bringing in a young CDM. You'll get away with bringing in another young left wing back. But what you won't get away with is skimping out in the forward areas and going completely young in that area. You need to bring in quality. And we haven't done it. I'm concerned, you know.
No, look, absolutely. And I think when you actually look at it, Dave, as well, we've brought in so much youth in the last 2 years. And I get it. If we want to go down that route, cool. But this is where I have the issue with it. And again, I've got nothing against young players. I used to work for a Premier League club working in youth football. So I'm all for it. I want to see all the kids at these clubs make it. They won't, but you want to see it. My issue is this. If we are going down that youth route, right, the message needs to be clear from the owners to the director of football to the manager. At the moment, all of the transfers were going down this route of youth, and you got fans going, Savva, it's a process, it's a project. But at the same time, my manager is telling me, not my work manager, but Postecoglou is telling me and you and all the fans, we want titles. We want trophies. Fine, but you've got this being said over here. The actions over here aren't in line. So for me, if we are going to be that young club that are going to have yet another project, another build, I don't know when these dates start and finish, by the way, they've got to tell us, right? And B, where I think it's disgusting, Dave, is Spurs charge the highest ticket prices in world football, or one of the top 2. We charge the highest replica kit prices in Europe. Go to a Spurs. You've been to the stadium. How much you pay for a pint, for a burger, for fish and chips? We charge the earth and then turn around and go, let's just sign loads of kids. That, for me, is where I think I don't understand why we moved stadium. I don't understand why we charge so much, but yet we want to buy down here and just hope that they can elevate to here every time. Does that make sense? I just don't think the message is clear.
No, 100%. It makes sense to me. Look, on the message, I do think it was community. Paratici has said a couple of times in interviews that he's done over the years that, you know, going after these young players is a model that they're trying to incorporate. It's just many fans don't want to hear it because it's not what they want. So I will give Paratici, you know, a bit of credit on that for communicating the message. But it hasn't come from Daniel Levy, which it really should. If you're showing real strong leadership, you know, it'll come from him going, this is what we're trying to do. But second of all, look, Daniel Levy is. I was speaking to my outlet on the way back down for a hike, and you know he's not Levy's biggest fan whatsoever. You know, and he was saying, why does Levy always do this? Just when it looks like we're about to, you know, break into that mode, go for a title challenge, he pulls the reins. And I was saying to him, I was like, because he's not going to come out and deliver a title challenge or a title for Tottenham Hotspur, because then that demand is there every single season. That means that he has to pay them prices, them wages and stuff like that. He's not going to do it. He wants to win it. He wants to build a team young, go and win a Premier League title, and hopefully keep them all around and sustain that success. That's the model that he wants to go with. He's a businessman at the end of the day. He's not going to shell out £80 million every single summer on 3 or 4 signings just to maintain titles, because then that expectations is there all the time, and he's simply just not going to do that.
His model hasn't worked for 24 years, whatever way we look at it, right? And don't get me wrong. If I remove, let me remove the fact that I support Spurs. Let me remove the fact that I don't like Daniel Levy as an owner and I don't like the project. Let me look at it from a football fan point of view. I love this dream, Dave. I love this dream that certain fans have where it's, we're going to bring in all these 18-year-olds. And you know what? They're all going to grow at exactly the same level every year. They're all going to stay at the club. They're all going to be injury-free. And by 2029, we're going to have the best 11 that have played together for 5 years. They're all 23, 24, and we go and win leagues. I love that as a fairy tale. I do. In reality, Dave, it doesn't matter if you're the biggest, if you're the most positive fan or the most negative fan in the world. That's never, ever worked. No one has ever done that in this era. People will talk to me about, oh, look at Ajax in the 80s. No offense. This isn't the 80s. This is 2024. You're competing against Arsenal. You're competing against Liverpool. And then you're competing against Manchester City. So my question for you, Dave, is this. And this is for the last 3 or 4 minutes. Do the club, in your experience, in your opinion, do the club see that the goal is to catch Liverpool, Arsenal and City, and not just for 1 year? I don't mean, oh, we finished above Liverpool 1 year. I mean, for 5, 6, 7 years that we're there, second, third, first. Do you believe that is truly the goal at Tottenham Hotspur right now with what you're seeing as the process?
Not from the owner's point of view. I think managers that walk in here have that aim. Pochettino had the aim of winning trophies. Yeah. Postecoglou has said the same, and so did Conte and Jose. You know, they want to win trophies. But yet every manager's walked away feeling very frustrated because just when they've been on the cusp or they wanted the players to go and do it, the club pulled the reins. Between 4th and 1st, you know, in the Premier League, there's not much more difference of the prize pool. There's not too much between it. As long as Daniel Levy gets in and gets that Champions League money, that's all he cares about, in my opinion. And that's just from what I've seen, you know, down the years, and especially lately with a lot of the managers that we've brought in here. We brought in Antonio Conte. He had a world-class forward line and one of the world's best or worst defenses. Jose Mourinho as well had a world-class forward line to work with, but one of the worst defenses. But when they asked for defensive signings, they didn't give them, even though they know bringing them in here that their system requires defenders, you know, really good class defenders in that system to make it work. They didn't do it. Bringing Postecoglou, look, regardless of the goals we conceded last year, I think that's more to do with the system than the individual quality of the players. I think we've got some fantastic defenders back there, fantastic players. But yet we've decimated our forward line and given them average forward line to work with. When in reality, if you give the guy a world-class forward line, he'll just go out and score teams every week, outscore teams every single week, and he'll probably bring you to a trophy. So for me, I think the owners make it very difficult for a manager to really go on and bring that success, because once it's here, fans will not tolerate anything falling below that. Daniel Levy's lucky in a way because he's had the club for so long. There's a lot of fans like me. I've seen a couple of trophies in the 90s, right? But for the majority of my lifetime, I'm not used to Tottenham being successful. So Daniel Levy's lucky in that regard. But once he delivers it, there's going to be a whole new wave of fans along with my old lad who won't tolerate it because he's been for supporting Tottenham through the success. Then that will start demanding that. And Levy ain't going to pay that sort of money to keep delivering it season in, season out. And that's just where I'm at.
Do you know what, Dave? I used to think you and I were so a million miles away from each other's opinions. But the more we talk, look, you know, there's certain things we don't agree on. I don't think we're a million miles away. I just think sometimes I word things just a little bit differently. And sometimes I not the best, you know. I agree, Dave. I mean, I think what you said there was spot on. The money he will generate from getting fourth versus the money he will generate from getting first isn't a significant enough difference for him to turn around and go, right, we've got fourth. Can I spend 300-400 million to really go and win it? Because the reward he'll get back from that doesn't outweigh what he puts out. Look, I'm going to win the show.
Just to add to that, sorry, quickly. Look at Jose Mourinho before the cup final. Daniel Levy sacked him, not only because it was cheaper to do it then, but if he did go in and deliver that trophy, fans would have been screaming, get everything behind Jose Mourinho and let's go and take the lot. But he didn't. He sacked him before the cup final. And that there showed me he doesn't want that pressure. He doesn't want that demand.
Agreed. Yeah, because once a manager like Jose wins, he's going, right, here you go. Look what I've done with this team. Now give me proper... Yeah. Forget if you like his style or I like or any fan. Once you deliver that trophy, he could turn around and go, well, there you go, I've proven it. Yeah. Give me these players. I agree. And I think the key thing here, Dave, for me is, and this is something that neither of us will know the answer to. So I'm going to end the show on a hypothetical. All the people that are saying, this is what Ange wants. This is the route we're going to go down. Savva, you're negative. Whoever else is negative because you don't like this process. I bet you when Ange leaves, whenever that will be, whether that's a year, 2 years, 5 years, and he writes a book or... I bet you any money you like that Ange will talk about, yeah, I liked signing kids, but what I really wanted was a couple of senior pros that have been there, seen it and done it to help those kids. And I don't believe there's any manager out there that has delusions of winning things that wouldn't want that, Dave, if asked. I don't believe that Ange Postecoglou is going, I only want 19-year-old, 18-year-old players. I just don't believe it.
Look, I can already see him getting pissed off. There's certain things that he's saying, in some of the questions or the press conferences that he's being asked, where, he's given maybe some answers where I'm reading it or I'm looking at him going, oh, that shows me that maybe he's a little bit unhappy or a little bit tetchy. Look, there's two things. I'm a big fan of Postecoglou. But it's almost like anything that goes right now, Postecoglou is getting all the credit for, every signing he makes. Yeah, well, if Postecoglou wants, I don't think it's quite happening like that personally. I think Postecoglou is going, these are the positions I need filled. These are the positions I would like. Then obviously the board go to their scouting model that they've pumped all this money into. Okay, well, you want this guy, but what we'll do is, we can get you this guy out of the Belgian league. He's 50 million cheaper and he has similar attributes, and I think that's what happened. But if you're Ange Postecoglou, and I don't think many people give this enough thought either, he's not going to walk away from this job. He's just not going to do it. It's his first shot at the Premier League. So, if the board come back to him and said, look, I know you wanted a right winger, but we'll give you Odobert instead of, a Chiesa or a Coleman. Work with that. Postecoglou ain't going to kick up a fuss like Antonio Conte done. He's just not going to do it, So he's going to work with that. And then when he's asked about in the press, obviously he's going to say, yeah, look, I had a phone call with the guy, blah, blah, blah. But then people get that mixed up going, yeah, that's Postecoglou signing. I don't think they are, personally.
Dave, do you know what? Spot on. When Postecoglou says things like, yeah, I picked up the phone and spoke to him. Well, yeah, I would like to think if I was a pro footballer and I move into a club, I'd like to think that my new manager might pick up the phone and have a word with me, whether he wanted me or not. But Dave, nail on the head. Again, I agree with nearly everything you've said so far in the show, if not everything. I think one of the key things to look at here is, you're right, Conte, Jose, their standing in the game is such that they can go, I don't need Spurs. Their standing in the game is they walk away. They'll go, look, Napoli. Napoli have not looked at Conte and gone, oh, look at Spurs. Yep, we'll have him. Yeah, Jose Mourinho, still, I know he's at Fenerbahce now, but straight away went to Roma, massive football club.
And delivered trophies.
Postecoglou hasn't got that. He hasn't got that yet. It's his first big job. I'm not saying Spurs are as big as Madrid and all them. That's not what I'm saying. But it's his first big job in a big league. I do feel sorry for him. I know people are going to go, that's hypocritical, Savva, because you don't rate him. Listen, Dave, I can sit here as a man and say, do I rate his tactics? You know I don't. Yeah. I say to you, don't I? I hate it. I can't wait for it to stop, right? But that's only 50% of it. The other 50% of it, I have the empathy and sympathy, the same as every other Tottenham manager. And I say, I'm not sure this is what he purely wants.
Yeah.
So the tactics, that's on him, right? For me.
Yeah.
All the players come in, I look at and I go, I'm not sure you did ask for this because there's no way we went and bid last week for Neto. So last Thursday, Friday, we're bidding for Neto, right? And then a week later, they've gone, right, the next person on our list was Odobert. But look, we'll see, Dave. Look, Dave, everyone knows where to find you. The Irish Hotspur, please get over there. The link will be in the chat. I don't know if you guys have you got a fantasy league that people can join as well?
Yeah, there will be a fantasy league and all that. Just check out the community section if you make your way over to the channel. But guys,
Perfect.
Hope you really enjoyed this. Make sure you smash the like for Savva. If you're new, make sure you smash the subscribe button and be a bit nicer to him in the comments.
God, you would honestly, it's absolutely crazy. But yeah, so look, join Dave's fantasy team league, join my fantasy league as well. £500 first prize. £500. Let's hope that I've got some money come May. Everybody, take care. Dave, thanks so much. Really enjoyed these chats. And everybody, enjoy the game tonight of the Premier League is back. I'm live at 10 o'clock. We'll be chewing some more fat. Join me for a panel show. See you later. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
You Spurs.